Hello, my name is Emily Zink. I'm one of the exchange student assistants at ISIS. I actually did an exchange back in 2008 to the University of Bath in the UK. I also worked for the summer of 2006 in Dublin, Ireland on a student work term. So hopefully those two experiences will help me today in talking to you about culture shock. So as most of you know, culture is not something that we're born with, but something that we learn. Culturally predetermined behaviors allow us to better communicate within our environment. These cues, which may be words, gestures, facial expressions, customs, or norms, are acquired by all of us in the course of growing up and are as much a part of our culture as the language we speak or the beliefs we accept. This is where culture shock becomes very evident. If we spend extended periods of time in a culture that is different from our own, we will almost always experience culture shock. It happens when our own culturally determined behaviors, some of which we may not even be aware of, don't get us the results we expect. This may produce a sense of disorientation and homesickness. So you might not acknowledge it at first. Culture shock is easy to overlook, actually. It's easy to be caught up in the newness of a city or a location. But over time, as you begin to settle into a routine, the things that didn't bother you before may now start to frustrate you. You may start to feel homesick, lonely, and lost. That is why it is important to be prepared for these feelings and emotions and have a plan to handle them. Now, there are different types of culture shock. My experience of culture shock in the UK will not be the same as someone studying in the West Indies or in Scandinavia. But I would argue that the behaviors and attitudes you need to cope with culture shock are similar. It's important to acknowledge what you are going through as culture shock. It is important to acknowledge that what you are going through is culture shock in order to best respond to it. So, I've come up with some tips for how to handle culture shock while you are away on your exchange or study abroad experience. Number 1, be patient with yourself. Whether you are homesick, frustrated, lonely, it's okay to feel those things. Let yourself off the hook. What's important is to acknowledge what you are going through and to do things that make you feel better. For myself, I am a Jane Austen fan, so me going to the coffee shop, sitting there with a cup of coffee and a novel was how I just got through days that I was feeling homesick. Now, that makes me sound like a really big nerd, but the point is, whatever it is that makes you feel better, that's what you need to do. You begin to learn more about yourself, what you need, what you enjoy, and what you do not want to do. Another tip, be patient with others. Don't expect other people to know stuff about you and your culture. For example, I don't know how many times I was mistaken for an American during my travels. Eventually it doesn't bug you anymore, but at first that can be a little frustrating. It's also important when dealing with people at your host location not to act arrogant, supposing that your way or your country's way of doing things is best. That will only serve to shut people down and will deter them from including you in other things. So take time to learn about the culture that you are in and where you are studying. Another tip is find ways to live with the things that don't satisfy you 100%. For example, if the university administration, you perceive it to be inefficient at your host university, try to be patient with that, work within that structure, and do not lose your cool. Don't forget the good things that you already have, that you have worked hard to get to where you are, that you are in a different country, you are having the experience that you have worked towards. Remember that there are always resources that you can use, such as counseling services at the university. Be sure to look up those things so that you know. Another tip, stay in contact with family and friends back home. It's a great way to cope with homesickness. Staying in the loop is important, and including your friends and family in your experience is also important. Just different ways for coping with stress, as stress is a main symptom of culture shock. Journaling, I found, is very effective. Writing down your thoughts, just getting everything out of your head onto a piece of paper can be very helpful. And physical activity is also very important. It will also keep you healthy while you are away. And probably one of the most important tips that I can give is get involved at the host university. Student societies or groups are always there, and they're just such a great resource for meeting people. Sometimes it's hard to locate a student society or student union. Here at DAL, it is very accessible to students. So it might take a little bit of digging. If you don't have a hobby already, develop one. This will be a great in for meeting local people. The Host International Office is also a great resource for you, but don't rely on them for everything. At the end of the day, you're going to determine how much you will get out of your study abroad or exchange experience. For myself, my day trips that I took when I was in England, I had to plan on my own. While the international office did plan some of them, it was not as much as I wanted to see. So this involves acknowledging what you want to get out of your exchange, what you want to see in the country you are in, and taking initiative in doing it. Another great way of getting involved is looking into community organizations and volunteering. I made a point to go out with friends I made outside of the exchange student community. While that community was a great support, it's important to push yourself to meet the local people and to get involved in a different community of people. After all, that's why you have gone to this country on an exchange. For myself, I attend church here in Halifax, so I made a point of plugging into a Christian group at the University of Bath. It allowed me to meet many British students, and I experienced a part of British student life that I normally wouldn't have. So those are just some of the main tips that I could come up with when brainstorming for this presentation. So I know it's probably really hard to think about coming home, even though you haven't left yet, but keep in mind that there is such a thing called reverse culture shock, and for myself, I can tell you that I found this more difficult than culture shock itself. At first, when you come home, everyone wants to hear about your experiences and what you learned, but after a while, people get tired of it. It's important not to become frustrated or depressed, but rather to use your experience in a positive way. How? Getting involved here at DAL. DALSA is a great opportunity to do that. As they have mentioned, they have many different programs and activities available for you even before you go and when you come back. Here at ISIS, we have started a new program in 2008 called the Exchange Buddy Program. An Exchange Buddy is a DAL student like yourself who has gone on exchange and returned and has been assigned to a new Dalhousie exchange student or group of students to help them with the transition into Canadian culture. This can be done just by showing them around, helping them get set up, and making yourself available to them by email or phone, just to help them if they run into any problems. Once you have had your international study experience, you will be familiar with what it feels like to arrive in a new country and not know many people or much about the local culture. The Exchange Buddy program is an excellent opportunity for you to show kindness to another exchange student and to hopefully make their experience here at DAL a more positive one. Personally, this program means a lot to me because when I first arrived at the University of Bath, there were a few volunteers at the university who were really nice and showed us around. They helped to make me feel more at ease, and they were friends that I had for the rest of my time in Bath. Remember that your experience has value. The point is that you can use what you learned from your exchange even when you get home.